call our meeting to order. If you'll all stand, we'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Greene County Schools District Vision and Mission Statement is promoting lifelong learning through real-world experiences. Please call the roll and establish quorum.
Davidic.
Here.
Fields.
Here.
McConnell.
Here.
Silva.
Here.
Fisher.
Here. All right, we'll have the approval of the agenda.
Also move. I'll second.
Okay, motion by Cindy, seconded by Michelle to approve the agenda. Please call the roll.
Silva.
Aye.
McConnell.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
Davidic.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. All right, this time's for open forum. If anyone would like to address the board on anything not on the agenda, you would entertain that at this point. If not, we'll go on. Consent items. Any questions or comments? If not, entertain a motion to approve consent items. Any comments on anything? Mr. Abbott's?
I'll move to approve the consent items.
Second. A motion by Michelle, seconded by John. Please call the roll.
Davidic.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
McConnell.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. Okay, old business. The second reading of the revised board policies. Start with board policy 501.13, open enrollment transfers. You want to comment on that?
Sure, yeah. So some of the changes here were just we're just kind of really identifying that if we approve, it'll be on me to make any of those approvals. And if we do deny, that it will require board action to deny a student. There are some various items in there that we would typically deny for, which would be inability to support students through appropriate staffing, reasonable class sizes, or if students have specialized programming through an IEP that we might not be able to support, would be the general reasons as to why we may deny, but that would come before the board. So I would explain any of those reasons before we did any of that. But that's typically it. We left the idea in there with the transportation about going across district boundaries, that we're not going to have that happen. So people can't come into our district and grab our kids, and just like we're not going to be able to go into anybody else's boundaries and grab their kids. So that is still in there, both for on the as a sending district, so, and it'll be on there as a receiving district as well.
And all these changes are because of the change in the state statute, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Just want to make sure our policy aligns with what the new legislative changes are for open enrollment.
All right. Any questions or comments?
Do we want to approve these individually or?
I think
So,
you could do 1 and 2 together, probably.
Okay.
Sending and receiving if you like.
Okay, then I move to approve the second reading of the revised board policies 501.13 and 501.14. I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Michelle, seconded by Bonnie to approve the first two stated board policies. Second readings, please call the roll.
McConnell.
Aye.
Davidic.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. Okay, board policy 306.1 is basically identifying the administrators that are eligible for the voluntary retirement benefits, correct?
Yep. We just wanted to be just specific on as to which roles that would be.
I move to approve the second reading of the revised board policy 306.1.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Cindy, seconded by Michelle. Please call the roll.
Silva.
Aye.
McConnell.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
Dominic.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. Okay, student construction project, Mr. Davis.
All right, I'm Kirk Davis. We weren't able to take any action on our student-built house due to financial, uncertainties, I guess. But I think Sean DeMoss actually came to me a year ago and actually said, well, if we can't do a student-built house, this would be really nice to approach this of a storage facility that would take care of maintenance department, athletics, construction, and performing arts, because all those areas are kind of short on storage at the new high school. And then, so I guess here we are at this point. We don't have a project per se. I've got 12 students signed up for Career Academy construction, and they need a project. So when Mr. Abbott came on board, kind of pushed this process. We had a little meeting, talked about some different potential things. So I guess what we came up with kind of a location on the kind of southeast of the high school, as far as that main drive on the south end. So it wouldn't interfere with any future planned builds, I guess, as far as field structures, things like of that nature. So we're kind of in the clear there. We kind of came up with a size idea. And then I had about a week to throw it all together. So numbers wise, the best I could do is kind of get on a Menards site. Obviously that's not my preference of materials, but it's a way to start kind of getting the numbers figured out. So typed in the parameters that we're talking about. It was a little bit smaller building than what we talked about. We talked about a 40 by 108. This one happens to be a 30 by 108, so a little bit smaller. Still gives quite a bit of room in both those bays. I think we could probably go bigger. Just Menards doesn't offer a 40-foot truss for post frames, so that's where we're at. This kind of includes everything that they can put into that cost. Now, how accurate that is at the point that we're ready to go, could go up, could go down, depending on lumber prices, steel prices. It also includes the doors. I think Adam Snogren also recommended looking at using maybe a reputable overhead door company to install those, and then you're going to have their maintenance that kind of backs it for the next however many years, as opposed to putting in a Menards door and replacing rollers and whatnot for however long with the maintenance staff. So I've already contacted Overhead Doors. They haven't got back to me yet for a price, but the price tag on the building structure itself, what we came up with was, if I can pull those numbers. So that's a rough estimate for the steel inside liner. 70,000 is kind of where we're at on that. Divider framing is another 2,000 to divide each bay up.
So that would be divided into 4 separate bays.
4 different bays. The maintenance area would be a little bit bigger than the other 3 areas, but it would provide. They're going to have to put more things in there, especially when you start talking about snow removal, Just keeping that at the high school location. That way, if Sean, he talked about if they've got a snow, tough snow travel, if he can get to Highway 30, he can get to the high school and get equipment going. So that would give that capability there. Concrete approach. I talked about the process of I might be able to do the concrete approach myself, so that price could come down a little bit. We could do that with kids in stages, which would give them kind of an experience. But I think the concrete floor, we probably need to hire that out, and that's John kind of recommended the numbers that I put together there as kind of a ballpark would catch labor and materials for that. We're gonna have to. The thought process is to do concrete piers and put anchored wet plate anchors in. For one, it gives it a little more accuracy in the end. I think I've been kind of studying it. I think it's something that the kids can, we can lay this out and it can be prepped. And if we need a concrete person, they can come in at any time in the build process and do the floor. So it kind of gives us some abilities there. Electrical is a bid that I got a quick bid from DNR Electric. They've been doing a lot of work in town for us. So it's one of my former athletes that runs that. So that's kind of why I lean on him. Plumbing and heating, I haven't quite got a bid on that solid. I talked to my best friend from high school. He's a commercial HVAC guy. He talked about using probably the most efficient and probably the best setup for us is to use probably the radiant tubes in the ceiling, because we could kind of keep it at a steady temperature. It'd be a gas heat, but it'd keep it at a steady low temperature in the two areas that we need heated. Then if we need to turn it up to work on equipment or something, then they can turn it up and it would radiate some heat, at least in the area that they're working. So probably the best and most efficient way for us to heat the areas that we need to heat. So he's going to kind of get me a price together on that. We wouldn't heat the whole thing, so half of it would be just straight cold storage. So the athletic equipment, the area for the performing arts, that's just cold storage. So they couldn't be putting I don't know what they may not put in there, but
Like instruments
instruments may cause issues. So, but definitely for props and obviously padded equipment or whatever for football or whatever we need there. Sean talked about that maintenance area housing kind of the irrigation hub to possibly get that process going. So I guess I don't know what that adds to the cost, I guess, but in a short little window, these are the numbers I've came up. And like any project, I'm sure it's going to add to it, but that's kind of where we're at. So gutters, I added on late. I talked to Andy Winters. He's barely doing gutters right now because he's so busy at work, but I think he kind of talked to me and said that he probably could make it work for us, that he would do it. So so we can get gutters installed, I guess. So Sean, do you have anything?
When does the class start with the students?
Monday.
Okay. So do you have anything for them to do?
Well, I mean, day one, I have stuff to do.
Okay.
Obviously, there's things that we need to do, safety stuff and right away. But yeah, as soon as we can if you guys approve it, we can get going on this process right away, because you want to beat the weather when you start talking about concrete and so, but we'll have to one call before we can break ground and do that kind of thing, but.
Do we have as a district any kind of a conceptual plan on what we want to do
I think,
possibly someday to the south as far as
yeah,
facilities,
I don't-
athletic facilities, or?
I don't know that you're on that email, but the group that was involved there, Adam Schnogren shared out that visionary. There's a couple different visionary images of what,
When we set that farm up, we designed it as a whole.
Complex.
Right.
where, how the fields would be laid out,
Right.
or
And then this is
this would be,
integrated into that plan,
Well,
so
it'd
it's not
be-
gonna,
yeah, it's
Affect.
not,
Something like that, so like.
not interfering, I
Football field
guess.
Track with a pond right there, and then options for some other fields that are around here, so this will be the south end of the.
What's the safe number?
so this
What's
building.
that?
So what's the safe number, 250?
So the building.
Depending on what more you add to it, you know, Adam told me today, well, it'd be nice to do soffit, which it would be for kids to, because that's closer to residential. But now you add more numbers.
South,
And it's.
it's down here, yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
I won't know until heating wise, till he gets me that, because I really don't know. But he said it's a pretty economical heat system. So I think, you know, I haven't,
That's another, that's another 75,000 over this.
right,
So even if we set it at a not to exceed 250, and you change the doors are gonna have to have openers, obviously. So between that and the heating and plumbing, I mean, that's not 75,000.
I don't think it is,
I would hope not,
yeah.
but my opinion is we don't want to just have an open-ended budget on this.
Right.
You know,
Well, then where's this money coming from?
Yeah, that's my
That's my
question.
number.
Where's
Well,
the-
it's our building when it's done, so I'd say we pay for it out of sales tax or PEPA funds.
Are we good to do that?
Yeah, I think so.
And with an estimated completion date of
I'd
spring.
like to be done at the end of the school year, yeah, this group of kids, I mean, it's quite a building, but and yeah, when you start doing a steel building of that size and you're talking about kids and you work 3 hours a day, you're talking about, you have a day with wind, you're not gonna be putting up steel. So the days that we have opportunities to work, we gotta put the foot on the gas and go, but
Have you looked at the possibility, and I don't know if this is, of building a stick-built building like this rather than a
I mean,
it costs more.
it's the
it
cost.
costs more?
I've done it. I compared mine that way because when the prices went stupid, I'm like, do this, do that. You still want to end up with the same type of post frame exterior when you're done. It just takes a lot of extra framing and sheeting.
Yeah,
Which
To
we've
get
got
to
the
that
labor to
point.
do. I didn't know if that would make a difference because we're not paying the labor on it.
Yeah, but when you put a 2x4 every 30 inches or 32 inches this way versus every 16 covered with plywood on a building, so you'll have $4,000 in plywood just on the walls, I think, or more.
So
And it's not,
it's
and
not,
you're still gonna cover it with tin when you're done.
yeah.
It's not cost effective to do. I tried. It's just not.
yeah, I thought of even framing with 2x6s, but we need more height. If we get a tractor, we've gotta have that height, we gotta have that 9 foot, whatever, 3 or 4, whatever it is for clearance, so.
What
So
would-
that's what we need for height.
What's the sidewall height on the building?
12 foot.
12 foot, okay. Is that tall enough?
Yeah.
Like any building I've ever built, it's never tall enough or big enough.
Yeah, hopefully we're not bringing your tractor in.
Well, we're not,
combine.
but I mean, just
Yeah.
generally, you know, it
Yeah.
seems like whatever you build, it's never big enough.
That allows you for a 10-foot door.
Yeah.
Maximum on a 12-foot tall.
But this is gonna be a $250,000 building easily. Yeah. By the the time you get plumbing, heating, and you haven't got doors in that bid either. Those
Doors are in that bid, but they're not
Oh,
top quality.
They're in the building
Yeah.
portion of it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They're
All-
they're not
it-
bad, they're not bad doors. We definitely built
They're
shops
doors.
with their door. and
So the insulated doors?
Oh, yeah.
Those are
Several years
insulated,
ago.
yeah,
and
that
it's
I
still-
happen to, that's in the quote, yeah, it's insulated.
How much extra would it, well, we don't have to
I'll find out.
hammer out all the details here, but you're talking about at least $250,000 building here. Yeah. So, I mean, do we put a limit of $250,000 on it, or how do we
I
handle
think you've
that?
gotta put
as far as
something on it, and then
approval?
if it's gonna go over, and you can see it's gonna go over,
We're gonna have to come back. Yeah. I mean, is
which
that?
you want to do that anyway. You're gonna want updates as
Mhm.
as
Right,
far as
right,
how it's
yeah,
coming in on
yeah.
budget.
Anything else coming down the line as far as that we need the public fund for that we can proceed?
There's always something like that with buildings and, yeah. There's always something. But there, there's that long range facility plan, and I've got spreadsheets with sales tax and couple anticipated things, and I think there's room in the budget for that.
Sounds good.
You agree?
Yeah.
Well, then we probably.
It's a good
need-
project for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah,
It's a
Yeah,
project.
and we need a project for the class,
Can
yeah.
any of the construction funds be used? It wouldn't,
We talked about that, but then that's kind of a separate.
that's supposed to
It's a
be for
separate
like selling
program.
things.
Yeah, that's.
Bring in
for
money, spend
something that
money.
you're gonna
That's for
sell.
if they are gonna do a
We don't want to
house down
spend
the
all of
road.
that out.
Right.
I'm
And
gonna
we
spend
wanna
on-
drain that because then the next year when we try to
There's
build a house,
no
there's no
nested
money.
bill.
They're gonna start
Right,
with,
okay.
How much is in that fund?
It's like 150.
Yeah, this is a separate.
It's
gonna be a
ours,
school-owned
it's ours,
building.
and
I mean, if it was gonna be a student or like a student built house, then I absolutely.
It was gonna be sold somehow.
Yeah. You covered a lot of it. Well, so do we need to just do a
Motion to,
motion for $250,000 then to start this project and have you update us on the costs then?
I will make that motion for $250,000 not to exceed for the construction of our storage facility.
There are other companies you can buy these packages from, right? Other building-
Just happens to be, I had a week to throw it together and I knew Menards had a build site for this process.
I know, but there are other companies that you'll check with probably, or?
except for they need to get going.
We probably buy,
I would-
my thought is to buy it in-house, in town,
From Tri-
the materials from Tri-County. That's, I mean, as much material as we can.
Tell them that's what the price they gotta be under.
What's that?
Tell Derek that's the price he's gotta be under.
Yeah, it's,
You know, if you buy this over there, that's an $8,500 rebate to go buy more stuff over there. So Derek needs to make it worth, I mean, they need
and
to make
they
it worth
do,
it.
I mean, they give a price break to the school, I know that. I mean, it's, our prices are different than what it is.
I check, because if you,
Yeah.
I mean, not that I don't like to do business in town, but if you can spend 70,000 at Menards, at 11% rebate, that pays for a lot of stuff inside. You know, that could either buy your garage door openers or that's how everybody does business now, especially with them.
If we negotiate with local people, because I think we need to spend local money here.
We
I
do,
think, yeah,
we do, but we don't need to spend 90,000 out there when we can buy one for 70.
right.
That's what I'm trying to say.
But maybe would he negotiate with us?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I feel like I hear what you're saying, that they'll work with you and you'll
You
talk to
take
them.
your stuff in there.
Just gotta
Yeah.
ask.
Yeah,
They'll tell you they'll do it, but.
Give him a budget,
Honestly,
and tell him he's
number.
got, we need to have, your package complete to fit in that budget.
I've been doing this a long time in this town. You gotta check.
But
They'll tell you something, but you might not get.
we're gonna set a budget of $250,000 and tell him we need to make that work.
We have
Don't
a,
tell
But
him,
all that is his.
don't tell him what our budget is.
What do you
Don't
mean?
tell him what.
All
Don't,
that
don't tell him what our
Oh,
budget.
no.
No, I-
No, the total budget, the total package has to fit that. So, yeah.
You still need a second?
yes.
I will second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Cindy, seconded by Michelle. We set a maximum budget on this building at this point of $250,000. Please call the roll.
McConnell.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
Diamondback.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Okay.
All right, reports. Superintendent report.
Yeah, so our admin team went down to the annual SII conference in Des Moines together, be 2 weeks ago now. We attended sessions around social emotional learning, culture and climate in our schools, equitable practices in education, educational legal policies, which is always a fun one, with Matt Carver from SAI. He always puts on he's always a riot. So, and then as well as we got into some competency-based education programs, which was really nice to see. A couple of other schools presenting on what we're essentially already doing in the Career Academy. Just need to kind of refine that just a little bit more. Just kind of get a good handle on that. The EPA just released about 2 weeks ago this clean bus initiative that would allow us to get some significant dollars to offset some transportation costs. So as soon as the login.gov gives me access, which they promise they'll do before Friday, I can apply for that for our district to at least get some of that first wave of funding. The teacher and paraeducator registered apprenticeship, where we signed a memorandum of understanding with Western Governors University. So we have 3 paraeducators that are interested in getting into that program there. We're partnered up with Cherokee, and I believe there's 8 total schools that are all in that consortium. So basically what that is they allows them to take reduced cost classes to get their teaching certificate. So pretty cool thing there. So we had all staff return on Monday, and tomorrow is going to be our back to school celebration with all of our staff members. So I'd like to make sure that you guys know that you are invited, front row center. Mr. Fisher has got a beautiful speech. He's all ready to go. Just doesn't know it yet.
Unless someone else would like to give it.
We have several local businesses that are coming to kind of partake in what I'm calling like a vendor fair, which will just be there supporting our teachers coming back into the classroom and what they, just kind of what they offer. They're not donating anything except for their time and just getting their name out there with us. So that doors will open at 7:30. All of our staff will have their usual breakfast from the Friends of the Library, as well as the Ram Restaurant. And then 8:15 doors will open, and we'll begin our program at 8:30. So, but also a big public thank you to Emily Guillen and Jill Lamore, Brent Gersma, and then our admin team for planning and putting all of this together. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a little bit more upbeat than what we might be used to. So
And where is it?
it'll be in the high school auditorium.
Okay.
Yep. And so just looking to have some fun and welcome our staff back and get the year kicked off with a little excitement. So that's all I have.
All right. Any questions or comments? Does anybody have any board committee reports?
We've met with the bell tower a couple times, but really no report to share at this point. What else? School Foundation met. And they are updating a lot of bylaws and formal things. So they're making some good changes and getting things more cleaned up. And that's like our committee that gives out all the scholarships, that sort of thing. So they're getting their house in order. That's all I got.
It's a big thank you to Keith Peterson on that one for picking that up and getting going on that real quick. So
Yeah.
it was really good.
And his support staff, I imagine.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Any other board reports? All right, other administrators' reports? They're not here.
Yeah, so you'll notice they're not here. They have all their mini conferences and conferences going on. I specifically asked them to be with their schools and their teams and teachers today, so they can be with them and be where they're needed in case any families or parents or anything like that needed to meet with them. So they did a little bit of a different format, which will continue on throughout the, till we get some feedback otherwise, but kind of putting it together in a bit of a slideshow format. So for them to just kind of give you just a brief overview of what's going on and give you an opportunity to ask any questions of them as they go.
The only other thing I would ask when they put those together, to spell out what their acronyms mean.
You guys.
First time I've heard that. They did a pretty good job. There's only a couple that I fumbled over.
You got it. Yep.
All right. Any other reports or correspondence this time? If not, we'll go on to new business.
This is via slides as far as our press. Do they need to have access to this or did they get access to this?
I will certainly give them access to it. so they
I
can see it.
mean,
Yep.
just in case, because we read it, you didn't.
Do you want to have administrators in the future verbally go through a report then at meetings, or you just want to go through the slides?
So I'll just do that, and then if you
Okay.
guys have
If
questions.
we have
for them.
questions, we can ask them. All right, new business, driving permits.
Oh, we're already there. Okay.
Yeah. Turn that over to
So,
Bonnie.
do we have two people here? Is that?
Yep.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I saw another student. I wasn't sure. Okay, so
It's got a-
Oliver, am I reading that right? Okay, so if you just want to kind of explain why you need a school permit, that's all we're kind of asking for at this point.
So I want to do like, after school and before school lifting at the high school. And, the bus, you can't really drive there, the bus won't like get you there, in time for you to be able to do that. And I'm also thinking of doing, some sports like golf and maybe like track. And it would be easier to, drive myself there. And then also if I have like a meet or something to like be able to drive back.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome.
Where do you live?
Halfway between Scranton and Jefferson.
Oh, okay.
So a little highway driving. Hopefully you've practiced that a lot, right, Dan? And then, okay, you're good to go. And then Brianna,
Right here.
hi. So why do you need a school permit?
Because so I'm in band and then we're like playing at football games. So that it would help like if my parents so they won't have to worry about like picking me up after. And then also just like so I don't have to ride the bus. And then it would just help because of school activities and all that.
Oh, where do you live? at?
Rippey, Iowa.
Oh, so you've got your clues too? Okay. Now I only have two. Is there three?
No, that's it.
Okay. Okay.
Elizabeth should be on there. I called last month to get her added to the agenda.
What's her name?
Elizabeth Long.
Long, Long.
Yep.
That, okay. Can we add that or how does that work with our? Okay, then
She's here. and-
we'll approve them all at the same time. Okay. So Elizabeth Long, so are you, do you kind of same thing? If you just want to explain why you need a school permit?
Because of after school activities, and so my parents won't have to take me to school and the bus. Where I have everyone people, and mainly just like after school activities, and so I can drive myself to them.
Where do you live? Elizabeth?
Okay. Should we maybe have her check with the office tomorrow to make sure there's nothing you need, or was this the?
No, this is fine.
Do you have
Okay, let her to
the
the
form then, Elizabeth? Okay. All right.
Perfect. I'm just gonna go over a couple key points, things that seem to get missed a little bit, and then you guys just make sure you're following all the laws that you know when you took your test and all of that. So, the drive is supposed to be from home to the school activity, so the most direct route. You're not allowed to drive without an adult, after 10 PM and not until after 5 AM. So like some of those later night activities, kind of watch the clock, because you're really not supposed to drive after 10. You can stop for fuel, but it should be on the quickest route, so a gas station that's, right on your route. When driving without an adult, you are only allowed to carry one passenger that's not a relative that lives with you. So if you're seeing cars of people, that shouldn't be the case. You should only have one person with you at a time that doesn't live in your house. No use of cell phones of any kind. You know where you're going, so you don't need GPS, so just put it in the back seat, forget about it. If you have a violation, or at any time your license gets suspended or revoked, your 6-month period to start with the clean driving record starts all over, so don't do that. And just remember that others are watching too, so there's a lot of parents, teachers, any of those people. It's not just the police that can turn you in, but it's other people too that might see off your route. So try not to do that. And then I would like to make a motion for Elizabeth Long, Brianna, how do you say your last name? Aids, and then Oliver Harris for a motion that they can get their school permit.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion for these three presented to get their school permit. And a second, please call the roll.
Fields.
Aye.
McConnell.
Aye.
Holliday. Aye. Solbach.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. If you guys have your forms, bring them up and I'll sign them quick and we'll get you out of here.
Make sure your name's written at the top of
And then
it.
if you guys, I could do that for yours. And then if you guys want to go ahead and speak out, you can, or you can stay for the whole meeting, whatever you want. Bye.
Brianna?
Does he have meetings this year again, or do you know yet? Or he kind of rotates until we still get.
Yeah.
Yeah. How fun.
Hey, Elizabeth.
You probably don't call her. You call her.
Oh, excuse me, Oliver. Yeah.
Miss Bailey, oh, that sounds right. She's so young. That sounds about right. Well, thanks for coming, you guys.
Yes, thank you.
All right, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Good luck, have fun.
Thank you.
Sid, 2021-22 Board Treasurer's Report. Okay, how are you? Great. Good.
So I know all of you have had this since last Friday, so you have these numbers really memorized.
Right.
Yeah. So I know we have a few new people that probably haven't seen this report before. So I'll just talk about the report a little bit. So each month I get financial statements, copies of the checking accounts and savings accounts and the investment accounts from Brenda and her staff. They do a reconcilement, and then basically I go in and I verify that reconcilement, that it looks correct, that everything balances back. And they always do a great job. And so what this does is it looks at each individual account that the school has. It starts with the balance you had July 1st of last year, and it ends with the balance we have June 30th of this year. These are the balances that are on the the bank statements, not what's in Brenda's checkbook, but we do reconcile to that, and you'll see that towards the end. So any questions just on how the structure of this works? Okay, so let's just go to that first account. So the general fund, the treasurer's cash balance on July 1 was the $397,568.20. They call it securities on this report. It's investments. It's usually money market accounts. Owned that same day was $2,655,000. So we had total assets beginning the year, $3,052,568.20. Receipts during the year were $17,486,93.23. So now we have to account for $20,533,261. From that, we had expenses of $18,004,3.14, leaving total assets at the end of the year then of $2,529,258.29, of which $2,245,000 was invested, and the $284,258.29 was the balance in the checking account. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Each one of these accounts happens the same way. So we'll speed this process up a little bit. Okay. So the management fund started with $560.01 in the checking account, had investments of $465, to $465,560. Total assets beginning the year, we had revenues of $743,538. So now we have $1,209,000 to account for. Expenses $766,815. Leaves us total cash of $442,282.68. $440,000 of that was invested, leaving $2,282.68 in the checking account. Okay. Capital projects funds. This is the one that used to have some really big balances in and got to zero. So the project fund account actually zeroed out through the year. But we started with $2,899 in the checking account, $27,500 invested,
$30,399.03 to start the year. Only had a little bit of interest income of $32.76. Total assets of $30,431.79, and those were all expended during the year, leaving a zero balance. And that account has a zero balance today, so it's really inactive. Sales tax fund started with $2,336 in the checking account, had investments of $1,107,500. So we had $1,109,836 to account for. Had revenues of $1,952,000. Gave us total assets of $3,062,489. And then we had expenditures of $2,383,335, leaving assets of $679,154.47. Investments of $600,000, so that's $79,154 in the checking account. Couple funds, $1,093, investments of $782,000. It was total assets of $783,093, receipts of $1,198,000, expenditures of $1,981,000. Total assets to account for $1,981,000, expenditures of $851,000, leaving $1,137,024. $1,010,000 of which was invested, and $120,000 left in the checking account. The debt service fund started the year with $100,866 in the checking account, $86,681 in investments, for total assets of $187,547.39. We had receipts of $2,378,652. Total assets to account for then of $2,566,200, less expenses $2,440,665. There's total assets of $125,534.76. Only $784 of that was invested, leaving $124,750 in the checking account. Any questions on any of that? Okay.
Sid, do you decide how much of each category is going to be invested then?
I
Or
do.
Okay, Brenda does all that, yeah. You just account for it. Fine.
Yeah, so I got a separate statement for each of those investment accounts that I reconcile back to what Brenda shows in her investment report.
And those are mostly money markets, and
Yeah.
so their money can be withdrawn and added at any time, yeah.
So the next little chart is just a statement of where the funds are at. So at Home State Bank, there's checking accounts of $203,904.63, money market of $600, total of $803,904. People's Bank has $407,265 in checking and $3,695,000 in money market for a total of $4,102,000. People's IceJet, that's your state investment account. There's no checking account there, it's just your investment, and that was down to $784.70 at the end of the year, leaving total checking account funds of $611, investments $4,295,000, for total assets of $4,906,954.60. The next little report is that reconcilement that I talked about. So the treasurer being me, general account. The statement showed $284,258.29. We had outstanding checks or outstanding warrants of $281,304.65 and a small outstanding deposit of $1,132. And that balances back to the checkbook that Brenda keeps of $4,085.76. So each of those accounts does the same thing. You start with the treasurer's balance on the statement. You add subtract outstanding warrants and add any deposits that were in transit. Sales tax, there happened to be a large deposit in transit. My balance was $79,154. There were warrants outstanding of 72, but there was a large deposit outstanding of $804,022.42. So that left a balance in Brenda's checkbook of $811,069. Pepple, same thing. $127.24 less the warrants plus the deposits, $3,731.95, and debt service of $124,750. Those balances would all balance back to those ending cash balances that we reviewed prior. Any questions?
think so.
Okay.
All right, so we need to swear in the treasurer and secretary,
Do we
correct?
have to move to approve the report or we just hear the report?
Oh, yeah, we should do that.
Move to accept it.
Okay, I move to accept the 2021-22 board treasurer's report.
Second.
All right, motion by Michelle, seconded by Cindy to approve the 2021-22 treasurer's report. Please call the roll.
Silva,
Aye.
McConnell.
Aye.
Dominic.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. All right, now we're
Yeah, you appointed us last month, but.
Yeah.
Swear at us this month.
Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of the office of School Board Treasurer and School Board Secretary respectively in the Greene County School District as now or hereafter required by law?
I will.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, everyone.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, you gotta kind of remember that this is a snapshot in time when you see that statement of bank deposits, and it looks like Home State has so much less than Peoples. But normally that debt service account is way up. We had just made a big payment, and that's why there wasn't very much in that account. Anyway, I just
And
wanted
the
to point that
account,
out.
the capital expenditure account that's in a zero, will that stay there?
That's gone. We're done. That was for the building project, the high school and the remodel. So, yep, those funds are spent. And gone. We won't reopen that account, no.
Unless we do another big
Steve.
project again.
Probably not on my watch.
No, but if we do.
Yeah, but
that's when it
no,
would
Correct.
Probably won't
That's
be on
where
my
it
watch either.
Yeah,
but
correct.
But that category
Sound
just
like
goes away.
players over
now. Evaporates. Good, right. All right, the 2022-23 handbook from the elementary school.
Yep, so this is just, the elementary handbook was not on last board meeting. Mrs. Hino was still going through and just making some adjustments, getting some things updated, getting the language correct. Same thing as what we talked about last month is that they'll put a revision history on the school's website, and they'll also have the 21-22 handbook so that parents can see any of the changes that were made. It's all in alignment with the other two buildings and with our district handbook as well.
Real quick, on the last meeting, they had talked about there were still some corrections that they might have wanted to make to the high school and or middle school. Were there any additionals or no?
We haven't made any at this time.
And then do you think, I noticed on all of them, we added that little catch-all of if kids keep acting up on a bus, we are not required if they live within 2 miles
To provide them.
to provide them.
transportation.
Is that just kind of a clarification that parents think no matter what,
Right.
the school has to?
We can use that
We
leverage.
provide a lot more transportation than we legally have to.
Yeah, and just to make sure we can,
We can.
follow
have it in-
policies on
yeah.
discipline if we
If
have a
says
problem on a
something that we
bus.
can fall back to. if we
Yeah.
need to. It's, it's in our handbook. You've seen the handbook. Yep.
Yeah, I like that it's red. That's smart. Yeah, I would make a motion to approve the elementary student parent handbook as shown.
Second.
All right, Bonnie moves and Cindy seconds to approve the 2022-23 elementary student parent handbook. Please call the roll.
McConnell.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
Dominic.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. Okay, reconsideration of instructional materials committee. We're just formally appointing those people.
Yeah, Jan Sherringson, Tracy Deal, and Matt Weidrich. Our three, they served on it last year as well.
I move to approve those 3 members of the committee be appointed to the instructional or reconsideration of instructional materials committee.
Second.
All right, motion by Michelle, seconded by John to approve the 3 names as listed of the committee to reconsider instructional materials. Please call the roll.
Davendeck.
Aye.
Sobah.
Aye.
McConnell.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
Fisher.
The associate and building secretary contract revisions.
So, and rather than doing the 50-cent increase in 4 increments across the school year, just proposing that these groups just get the $2 all up front with the expectation that they must complete professional development and training, with the first one being on September 26th. Paraeducators, we split them into 2 categories. So we have our special education paraeducators as one category, and then the other categories are general education paraeducators, our building secretaries, and our media clerks are in another. So the training for the special education paraeducators will be designed by our teaching and learning or admin staff and myself, and very specific to what we know that group of paraeducators need. Taking feedback from the special education teachers themselves. We will partner with the AA just a little bit on that, but it'll be synchronous with the expectation that they are there in person participating. And if for any reason that they can't be, then we are going to also be able to make it so that it's asynchronous with a deadline and an expectation that they do complete some of the activities that are on there and turn that into the principals as evidence of completion. And on the other side, we've contacted the AA, and they have some modular training that other group. So again, that's our general para educators, building secretaries, and media clerks. They'll have modular training that they complete, and they'll get like a little certificate of completion after those modules to turn into their building principals as evidence of completion of that. And so that way principals will have a specific set of criteria. They've been involved in the creation of that criteria. They know what it is, they know what they're looking for, and we can hold our staff accountable for the expectation that they will participate in the training and while receiving the pay increase at the same time.
And they get paid for their days that they do the professional development, I would assume.
It's
Yeah. Is there hourly?
Clock in.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would clock in and participate and.
Great.
And then that training, we talked about spreading the raise out throughout the year. Then is training taking place throughout the year as well? Or
It
just in
is, yeah.
September?
So it's in, there's one in September, November, and I believe it's in February, and then I want to say
January and April.
January and April. Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Yeah, so we have those 4 in there. So they wouldn't actually get an incremental raise each time. They would just get it all up front now.
Yep.
But the expectation is that they will participate, and we have a process for those. If we see that there's a habitual, we're skipping out or we're missing, or I want to say skipping out, but we're missing each time, then then we have a course of action to take there.
Okay. Yep. You already have a course of action.
Yes.
All right. Excellent.
It was there.
That's kind of a, like I've said to each one of you that had asked about it, it is a blunt way of putting it, but when the expectation is there, then we rise to meet that.
Okay, so what's the hourly rate that we're making a motion to, or just a
Everybody's got
$2?
different ones because
So-
everybody's been working longer.
So
Right.
just,
Okay.
what is the motion that needs?
So it's a
$2 increase
$2 increase.
with four professional development days required. Right?
Yes.
You agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would make a motion to increase the hourly wage for associates and secretary contracts.
It's building secretaries though. It's not 12-month employees. It's
The building secretary, okay. So make a motion for them to have a $2 an hour increase, with them doing 4 professional development trainings throughout this school year.
I'll second that.
All right,
Do you know what that was? I'm not sure I said that very well.
I know what you mean.
Okay, good. Brenda will clean it up.
all right. So we have a motion by Bonnie, seconded by Michelle to approve the associate and building secretary contract revisions as stated. Please call the roll.
McConnell.
Aye.
Davendeck.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
Sobah.
Hi.
Fisher.
Aye.
God would have done that.
All right. Cheerleader positions.
So we added an assistant cheerleader coach in the same accordance of how it's figured out per unit. So so Shannon is actually, she's keeping her same, she's going to be the head coach of all 3 sports. And then Deb is going to assist with all three sports. Mainly the reason there was a big overlap between basketball and wrestling. So we wanted to make sure that there was supervision being provided by somebody who was somebody who's paid by the school district was a big part of that. And she's got a lot of kids out. So we saw that during the pep rally, we saw she's got a bunch of kids out. So it'd be good to have for her to have some support with that number of kids.
So if there was only one sport that we were cheerleading for, then would the number of units be less? That's just a generic question, not specific to cheerleading or anything. Like, how do we arrive at 7 and 10? If there's only football, then would it be 3 units?
We just did it in alignment with what everything else was. That's where we just looked at, so what does a head coach get of any other sport? And then, so what's the assistant make in, it was about 70% of it. So that's just what we came up with.
You said there was a lot of cheerleader.
Yeah,
There's
there's a lot of
probably
take time.
26 just for football. And then
Or just for football.
It's teacher salary.
And when you
and
think
that.
about, I think when you think about the number of kids that you're gonna have in wrestling and basketball, and we're in 2 different locations, especially if they're playing on the same night or whatever. I think previous what was happening was that we just had a parent volunteer just monitoring those students, which I'm not okay with. Yeah, for the liability standpoint.
Yeah.
That's what I was
Just
wondering,
kidding.
can parents volunteer if they have like background checks and are doing everything?
I would prefer not.
It wasn't happening. is what I'm
Okay.
hearing.
They
But
can still
but
volunteer
is
to
that,
help
but
Deb or
if I
Shannon.
wanted to volunteer in a classroom today, I'm just talking broad scheme.
Yeah, so if you wanted to volunteer in a classroom, yeah, you'd have to go through a background check and all that.
And that.
Yeah, yeah.
But this was more, when I'm in the classroom, I'm with typically another teacher, so that's where
Right, they were
That
actually being
a school,
responsible for
a
supervision.
school supervisor.
And they were probably trained for that.
That's what I was trying to.
There's a possibility, but that was in the past.
That is.
So these 2 people are just gonna work out together what their
What their roles and
Yeah.
roles
responsibilities
are gonna be in which sport and.
So I had part of one of the kind of the components of this is that I had Shannon kind of articulate what's her plan for what is Deb's role going to look like. Not just simply I'm going to take this sport and you're going to take that sport. It's how are we going to collaborate together? How are we going to bring the teams and the girls together? Or sorry, I shouldn't say girls. Bring the kids together so that they can be coaching and supporting and serving all those teams.
Kind of like any head
Like
coach and
anything
assistant
else.
coach, yeah.
That was one of my big asks was what does this look like? If you have an assistant, what does it look like?
Right, yeah.
And she took a few days and articulated out a pretty nice plan.
All right, do we have a motion to approve this?
I will move to appoint Shannon Black as head coach and Deb Walterman as assistant cheerleading coach.
And to add that position.
And to add that position.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion has been made by Michelle and seconded by Bonnie to appoint the cheerleading positions for the cheerleading program as we've discussed and stated. Please call the roll.
Davidic.
Aye.
McConnell.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Mills.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. Okay, level 1 investigator appointment.
Previous to this school year, it was Scott Johnson, but as he has retired from that, we're going to propose that we appoint me to that role. That kind of fits well within my background and everything I have going on. And some of the bias is removed out of what I might have with in terms of proximity to students and situations, and
And a level 1 investigator's role is.
is for sexual harassment and potential physical abuse.
Is that for employees only or for students as well?
With students and employees.
Yeah, okay.
Right, I'll make a motion that we approve Brett Ebbets as a level 1 investigator.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve Brett Avitz as the level 1 investigator. Please call the roll.
Silva.
Aye.
McConnell.
Aye.
Dominic.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. All right, 2022 IASB Legislative Priorities Resolution.
So this should have been on the July meeting, but by the time all the things got transferred over to me, I would have been adding it on the day of our board meeting, and I didn't want to do that. So spoke with IASB, and they said they'll accept our legislative priorities from our district a little bit later. So essentially what they're asking us for is to review, there is 33 overarching components of the legislative priorities that they want to be able to lobby and advocate for on behalf of school districts. And they asked us to select 3 to 4 that we would want them to advocate for on behalf of us, or to kind of add us to the mix in terms of what we're looking for. So it's just really a discussion, or, you know, if there's anything that you see. I know they're all really important, so it's really hard to narrow it down to like 3 or 4.
In the past, do you remember, Brenda, what our 4
A lot of
were?
times one was, had to do with money.
Yeah.
And mental health is usually one, and at-risk is usually one. A lot of times we stuck with 3, I think, so. That doesn't mean that you have to stick with those, but that has been kind of the focus the last few
Mhm.
years. So like number 7, number 8. And then you skip back to, maybe 19.
That's been the previous kind of.
Yeah, that's, I mean, that doesn't mean that's
Yeah,
to go with,
that's good to
but
know. Well, to me, number 2 is mine, but I don't know where people feel. What do you think? Do you want us to talk first? You probably have a thing.
Oh, of course I do. So I had, there's 3 like of the overarching, and then I wasn't able to get narrowed down to less than 5. I tried. So mine was under number 2, which is the student achievement and accountability, specifically around, you guessed it, preschool, specifically with the continued funding for our 4 and 5-year-olds to get to that half to a 1.0 FTE, which would be massive for us. Mental health, which I know does fit under number 8 there, but just making sure that we have supports to be able to establish kind of a comprehensive community mental health system for our kids. Educator quality, again, coming around market competitive wages, teacher recruitment and licensure. I think we're on a good path with the teacher apprenticeship program. But I'd like to see that get tweaked still.
Which number is that?
16, is that?
16, teacher recruitment and licensure? Or, yeah.
Just supporting additional tools to get individuals into the teaching profession. The one thing that I want them to also kind of consider too is about keeping teachers in the profession. Like, yes, it's great to attract the next newest and brightest, but what are we doing to retain those quality educators that we still have? And I think that's where the market competitive wages will come in. And then the one on the fiscal responsibility and stewardship, specifically around supplemental state aid. Really that goes into our supplemental state aid matching inflation, essentially, and being appropriate to us. I think the last thing I looked at, I think there was something like 62 districts this school year that were going to be operating at a loss already before the school year even started, just due to their decrease in enrollment, and then the increase in inflation, and then the state aid not matching to meet that. So we're in a pretty lucky situation right now, because I think our increase in enrollment is going to, along with that little bump, I guess you can call it that, and supplemental state aid is going to keep us in a good shape, in pretty good shape, but that is not the case for everybody.
Well, inflation is going to hurt everybody.
It is.
And, how much was our enrollment up? Was it like 40?
Well, last year it was up 19,
Okay.
and this year so far, I think the last time I checked, it was like 22 or 23 higher.
Oh, awesome.
So I mean, 40, 41, 42 kids for a district of our size. I mean,
Yeah.
a district of any size really, but a district of our size especially is absolutely
What age, sorry, if you know this off the top of your head, where they're, or is it all across the board?
They're across the board. There's two or three kindergarten, a couple of first and second. They're just like literally smattered across the whole district. There's
Which
less,
actually is
less,
okay.
less, it's great, it's a good thing, because if they piled us into kindergarten, I just bless those teachers right now. But it's less in high school, which is fairly common, I think. And it's more bunched in between K and 8.
Yeah.
I think there's maybe 2 or 3 in the high school, and that's it, out of those 22, so. Anyway, that's where I kind of lean,
Well, we're not picking our district goals, we're just picking what we want them to advocate for.
Correct.
I mean,
Yeah.
because they're all goals, so
Correct.
Yeah, these are recommendations to the,
what we want them to fight for, basically.
yeah, what the legislative
Yeah.
goals that we want them to direct towards.
So do you want to agree on
I'm very
3
comfortable
or
with
4
what you have.
numbers?
So
Two.
we've got number 2, number 8, number 16, and number 20. Is that what we're?
And maybe number
Did you have
3.
another one?
I feel like number 3 was 1
Three
too,
was
wasn't
three.
it?
2 and 3 were kind of together.
Okay.
They really kind of do lump together, yeah.
Yeah.
And 8,
So then just 2,
It was
so
not
2 is standards and accountability, 3 is preschool, preschool funding, 8 is around mental health. 16 is around teacher recruitment and licensure. And then 20 is around the supplemental state aid. Or funded. Wouldn't that be fun?
so I make a motion. Somebody should make a motion.
No, I know.
So
I'm
moved.
waiting.
Can I just say 2, 8, 16, and 20, or do you want me to read
2,
them?
3, 8, 16, 20. I think I'll kind of say what they are in minutes.
Okay. The ones we just discussed,
2, 3, 8.
to approve those to go to ISD for the legislative priority resolution.
I would second those.
All right, so we have a motion by Cindy, seconded by Bonnie to state number 2, 3, 8, 16, and 20 on the list to the 2022 School Board Legislative Priorities Resolution. Please call the roll.
Fields.
Aye.
McConnell.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Dominic.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. All right, fundraising requests. Have one for the cheerleaders, for driveway painting. One from Ms. Harris for FFA.
It was just after prom. There's more
After
courtesy.
prom Fundraiser, yeah. After prom fundraiser.
So there's a couple here.
Any questions or comments on any of those, any concerns? If not,
I make a motion to approve the fundraising requests as provided.
I'll second that.
okay, motion by Bonnie, seconded by Michelle to approve the fundraising request. Please call the roll.
McConnell.
Aye.
Dominic.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. Okay. Board policy review 400 through 401.14.
There was just a minor change in an address on the district offices. That was something that we saw.
Not 204.
Right. Should be 101 Ram Drive, so.
Okay, now you've got first reading.
That's a different policy.
That's for a different, okay,
Yeah.
that's.
That needs to get inserted in here.
Okay, that needs to be added to this portion of policy.
No, it's not gonna be, we're not yet, because we're gonna do a first reading of
Or
it.
second reading, so
No, I mean. that's what we're
Eventually it
proposing
will.
Doing, yeah,
But that's all different motions.
no, I know.
I move to approve board policy review of 400 to 401.14.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Cindy, seconded by Michelle to approve the board policy review as discussed, 400 through 401.14. Please call the roll.
Silva.
Aye.
McConnell.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
Dondek. Aye. Fisher.
Aye. Okay, then the first reading of new board policy 401.13, employee use of cell phones.
So this language is straight copied out of the IASB. We did not have a previous policy for employee use of cell phones. Couple things to consider here is that the current process that is actually happening in the elementary when teachers go outside with kids for recess, if they have an issue and they're actually using personal cell phones to call, or, and there was some concerns raised there about what that could look like. Some other things to consider is that it's more of a student safety issue if there's not anything kind of governing what the expectation is for cell phones. Say if something happens in a classroom, teacher pulls out their phone because that's what they're used to call for support or help, and then it can just kind of spiral into just things we don't want our teachers getting accused of. I just think there can be supervision concerns there as well. I shared with Steve an actual situation that happened in my school last year where I had one of my teachers recording like a Facebook video of her selling some like cleaning products like Norwex, and it was a lot of fun to deal with. But we didn't even, they didn't even have an employee use of, yeah. So they didn't even have a cell phone policy where I came from. And, but I checked around some other districts as well. Just once we kind of talked about this, is that it's consistent with other districts. They have adopted this policy as well. So just
Is there a need for when they are out on the playground to be calling someone?
we've already taken care of that.
Okay.
So we found some pretty decent two-way radios. We're going to give them a month or two to see if, as long as they're meeting the need of what they have. So far, so good. We went and tested the range of them last Thursday, and from the office out to that playground, it is a hike. And they worked really well. So I know Mrs. Heino had talked a lot about she doesn't want to be in her office. She wants to be out and about, and how can people quickly get a hold of her without having to text her or call her on cell phone? They can just hit her on the radio. So
Cool.
All right, any other questions?
We have one for kids. This is probably good to have for employees too. I make a motion to approve the first reading of new board policy 401.13 for the employee use of cell phones.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Bonnie, seconded by Cindy to approve the first reading of the new board policy 401.13. Please call the roll.
Fields.
Aye.
McConnell.
Aye.
Dondek.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye. All right. Telemental health services agreement with Classroom Clinic.
So this is an ongoing contract. We had the same contract, same price as last year, that $13,125. So it's a service that was provided last year. Was on Tuesday afternoons, and what it is that it's a mental health support provided by Sue Galing from Classroom Clinic here. The really cool thing about this is that we were the first ever district to sign on with her. So she's kind of grandfathered us into this price. So this $13,125. She told me that over the phone or over a Zoom meeting the other day that as long as we continue to stay with her, she's going to continue to give us this rate right here, even though her prices are going up quite a bit. So it is a much needed service, especially since we just talked about it with our ISB legislative priorities. So this would align really well as well with what you all just talked about. And,
I agree with it wholeheartedly. Is getting used.
yeah, we fill it quick.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And the one benefit is, I did a cost comparative with where I came from. That's kind of my what I know right now, and this is a drop in the bucket compared to what they're paying in urban areas. To the point where Sue had told me that she's getting multiple offers coming out of like West Des Moines Valley. She had a couple from Johnston trying to contract with her, and just because they know that her prices are significantly reduced compared to what they're charging in urban areas and urban cities for the same service.
Is she the mental health provider or is she the coordinator?
She is the provider.
Okay.
Yep. And then the classroom clinic is her business.
Okay, so she only has X number of appointments, half an hour, 15 minutes, whatever,
Yeah,
number
they're
of
about
appointments.
15 to 20 minutes, and we do those 1.5 day per week. So
And the teachers get to use those? Or who use, the
They're
kids
for
use those?
students.
They're all
Yeah.
for students, okay.
Or-
Maybe we should do one for teachers too.
probably wouldn't hurt.
Okay, so it's for kids.
Yeah. it's-
Okay, and do the parents sign the kids up, or is it probably a combination of?
Parents have to,
Parents and-
so they can be recommended by teachers or school staff. But ultimately, parents do have to sign a waiver for the service to be able to be conducted.
Okay.
Yep, and then it's actually, and the beauty of it is that she doesn't have to be on site, and she can go to any of our 3 buildings and just be remote. And
Yeah.
it works quite well, so
Okay, and then there's no expense back to the parents through insurance? or
nothing.
anything?
Nope.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, the whole Zoom thing is really,
It's taken off.
but it's really aided in this mental health stuff, especially
Well,
because,
especially for us and, in our area, providers are pretty limited. We're not in a big city, but even in larger cities, they're still really hard to come by.
yeah, right. All right, any other discussion or questions?
I move to approve the mental health services agreement with Classroom Clinic.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Cindy, seconded by Bonnie to approve the telemental health services agreement with Classroom Clinic. Please call the roll.
McConnell.
Aye.
Fields.
Aye.
Silva.
Aye.
Donadue. Aye. Fisher.
All right, anything else? All right, we'll adjourn.